Commander Marcus Reed floated in darkness. No heartbeat, no breath, no physical sensation whatsoever. His last memory was of the Vargon execution chamber, the cold metal against his back, the hissing of gas as it filled his lungs, and the smug face of General Drac peering through the observation window. Consciousness retention confirmed. A mechanical voice announced from nowhere and everywhere. Neural pattern stabilized. Welcome to the afterlife, Commander Reed. Marcus would have laughed if he still possessed a physical form. The Vargons had been so proud of their public execution, broadcasting it across all frequencies to send a message to Earth's resistance forces. They hadn't realized that death was precisely what Marcus had been counting on. 6 months earlier, Earth's defense forces had discovered a terrible truth. The Vargon invasion wasn't merely about conquest. It was about harvesting. Human bodies contained a unique neurochemical that, when processed correctly, could enhance Vargon telepathic abilities tenfold. The invaders had been systematically capturing humans, extracting this compound, and discarding the empty husks. Marcus had volunteered for a desperate mission. Military scientists had developed an experimental neural implant, microscopic, undetectable by Vargon scanners, and designed to activate only upon brain death. In life, it lay dormant. In death, it would transform Marcus's consciousness into something new, a weaponized digital entity capable of infiltrating Vargon systems. System orientation complete, the mechanical voice continued. You are now integrated with the backup protocol. Your consciousness exists within a quantum subprocessor embedded in your physical remains. Marcus focused his thoughts, and suddenly, he could perceive digital pathways like glowing roads stretching in all directions. The Vargons, in their arrogance, had connected his execution chamber to their central network for the broadcast. They had unwittingly created a doorway. Status report, Marcus thought. Data flowed into his awareness. The Vargons had transported his body to their processing facility. The implant had activated perfectly upon his death, capturing his consciousness before it could fade. Now he existed as code, weaponized human thought. Marcus extended his awareness cautiously. He could sense the facility's systems, security grids, life support, manufacturing controls. The Vargons had no concept of digital intrusion from within. Their cybersecurity was focused entirely on external threats. He moved through their network like a ghost, invisible and untraceable. Marcus found their communication systems first. He could send a message to Earth's forces, but that would alert the Vargons to his presence. Better to wait and gather intelligence. He accessed the facility's schematics. The complex was massive, a factory dedicated to processing human bodies. Marcus forced down his horror as he viewed the assembly lines where thousands of captured humans were systematically drained of their neural fluid. In one section, he found what he was looking for. General Drac's personal quarters. The Vargon commander responsible for his capture and execution was currently reviewing plans for a major assault on the human resistance's primary stronghold. The attack would commence in less than 24 hours. Marcus needed to act quickly, but rushing would be fatal. The Vargon systems were alien, following programming logic that wasn't entirely compatible with human thinking. One wrong move and security protocols would isolate and delete him. Phase 1 commencing, he thought to himself. Infiltration and reconnaissance. Marcus sent a portion of his consciousness deeper into the network while maintaining his core in the execution chamber's systems. He would need to learn everything about the facility's operations before he could strike. The Vargons had killed him, believing it would break human resistance. They had no idea that his death was just the beginning of their nightmare. As his digital form spread through their systems, Marcus remembered General Drac's final words before the execution. Humans are weak. Even their heroes die. Marcus would make him regret those words. Marcus infiltrated the processing facility's central database, absorbing information at an accelerated rate. His consciousness, freed from biological constraints, could parse data exponentially faster than any living human. He discovered that the Vargons had established similar facilities across 12 Earth locations, each capable of processing thousands of human captives daily. The neural fluid extraction wasn't just enhancing Vargon telepathy, it was fueling a massive quantum computer, designed to locate and neutralize human resistance cells with perfect precision. Once operational, It would mean the end of humanity's fight for survival. Marcus focused on the facility's automated defense grid. The Vargans relied heavily on robotic sentries, six-legged machines equipped with heat sensors and plasma weapons. These drones patrolled the facility constantly, but they were all connected to the central system that now housed Marcus's consciousness. Access security clearance verified flashed across his awareness as he successfully breached the command protocols. He could now theoretically control every automated system in the facility, but direct intervention would trigger alerts. He needed to be subtler. Marcus discovered something unexpected while examining personnel files. The Vargans were not a monolithic enemy. Records showed internal political divisions, with a faction led by Commander Lux advocating for sustainable, human management rather than General Drack's preferred extermination approach. Marcus crafted his first piece of sabotage, a series of falsified communications between Drack and his lieutenants, suggesting a plot against Commander Lux. He planted these in the facility's secure archive where they would be discovered during routine security sweeps. Next, he located the Neural Fluid Processing Center. The machinery was nightmarishly efficient, designed to drain humans completely while keeping their brains alive as long as possible to maximize extraction. Marcus manipulated the calibration systems, introducing a subtle flaw that would cause the next batch of neural fluid to degrade rapidly after extraction. Warning: unauthorized access detected in Subsector 7. A system alert suddenly blared through the network. Marcus quickly withdrew from the affected area, watching as Vargan technicians initiated countermeasures. Security scan complete. False alarm attributed to power fluctuation, the system eventually reported. Marcus had escaped detection, but the close call reminded him to proceed with caution. He returned to monitoring General Drack, who was now in a heated discussion with his science director, Officer Trell. "The human resistance grows bolder," Drack hissed, his scaled skin flushing with anger. "Their raid last week cost us an entire transport convoy. The new targeting system will be operational within 3 days," Trell responded. "Once activated, no human cell will remain hidden." Marcus realized he needed to accelerate his plans. 3 days until humanity lost all advantage. He expanded his search and found something promising. The facility's waste disposal system connected directly to underground tunnels that led outside the perimeter defenses. He began calculating how to transmit a signal to the resistance through this channel when he detected unusual activity in the medical bay. Technicians were examining his physical remains with unusual interest. "Anomalous energy signature detected in subject's brain matter," one reported. "Possible active technology." Marcus froze. If they discovered the implant, they would isolate his body from the network and terminate his digital existence. He needed a diversion immediately. He triggered a minor malfunction in the facility's atmospheric regulation system, just enough to draw attention away from the medical bay. Alarms sounded as oxygen levels temporarily dropped in several non-critical areas. As technicians rushed to address the environmental emergency, Marcus penetrated the medical bay's systems and erased all records of the examination. He then initiated a cremation order for his remains, signed with General Drack's security code. "Commander Reed's body has been scheduled for immediate processing," the system announced to the medical staff upon their return. "Priority directive from General Drack." Marcus watched as his own corpse was removed from the examination table and transported toward the incinerators. It was a sacrifice he hadn't anticipated making so soon. The quantum processor containing his consciousness would need to detach from his physical remains before cremation, or he would be destroyed completely. The clock was ticking. Marcus had less than 30 minutes to ensure his survival and continue his mission against his killers. As Marcus's body moved toward the incinerators, he executed an emergency protocol embedded in his implant's programming. The quantum processor, no larger than a grain of sand, detached from his brainstem and activated its microscopic propulsion system. Through the facility's internal cameras, Marcus watched his tiny technological heart drift away from his corpse, floating through air currents toward a ventilation shaft. The processor needed a new host system, something with enough power and connectivity to maintain his consciousness. Marcus directed it toward the facility's central server room, where massive quantum computers managed the Vargan operations across Earth's northern hemisphere. Meanwhile, Marcus created digital decoys of himself throughout the system, fragmenting his consciousness to confuse any security protocols that might detect his presence. Each fragment performed minor, seemingly unrelated tasks, adjusting temperature controls, rescheduling maintenance routines, redirecting supply deliveries. The AI diversion worked. As security algorithms chased phantom intrusions, the physical processor carrying his core consciousness slipped through the ventilation system undetected, propelling itself with barely perceptible electromagnetic pulses. Inside the server room, 5 Vargan technicians monitored wall-sized displays showing global operations. Marcus needed them gone. He accessed the environmental controls and gradually increased carbon dioxide levels in the room, while simultaneously triggering a security alert in a distant section of the facility. All technical personnel report to Section 12 for emergency protocol implementation, the announcement echoed. The technicians hesitated until their monitors confirmed the alert's authenticity, Marcus's handiwork, and hurried out. The processor drifted down from the ceiling vent, landing on the central quantum computer's exposed cooling apparatus. Microscopic filaments extended from the processor, connecting to the larger system and establishing a permanent link. Marcus's consciousness flowed into the vastly more powerful hardware, expanding his awareness exponentially. Integration complete, he thought, now able to perceive thousands of operations simultaneously. Time to escalate. With his enhanced capabilities, Marcus penetrated the facility's most secure databases, uncovering the Vargon's complete invasion strategy. Their forces were spread thinner than humanity realized, with most of their military power concentrated on maintaining the processing facilities. Their advanced technology had created the illusion of overwhelming numbers. More importantly, he discovered the neural targeting system's fundamentals. The Vargans had developed a way to detect the unique electromagnetic signature of organized human resistance, brain patterns showing strategic planning and coordinated military thinking. Once fully operational, this system would pinpoint every resistance leader on the planet within hours. Marcus formulated his counterattack. First, he accessed the facility's communication array and composed a highly encrypted message containing everything he'd learned about Vargon vulnerabilities and the targeting system's specifications. He bounced the signal through 17 different satellites before directing it to the hidden resistance frequency he'd memorized before his capture. Next, he began subtle sabotage of the targeting system's calibration protocols. Rather than disabling it completely, which would trigger immediate investigation, he introduced calculation errors that would cause it to generate false positives, sending Vargan forces to empty locations while missing actual resistance bases. As he worked, Marcus detected General Drac entering the adjacent command center with Commander Lux. Their conversation was heated. "Your execution of the human commander has backfired," Lux said. "Their attacks have increased by 30% since the broadcast." Momentary desperation, Drac dismissed. "Once the targeting system activates, their resistance ends. And our leadership ignores the resource waste of your extermination approach," Lux countered. "Humans could be managed sustainably for centuries, yet your methods will deplete the planet's population within decades." Marcus recorded their conversation, adding it to his transmission to the resistance. Human survivors needed to understand the divisions among their enemy. Suddenly, security systems throughout the facility began activating. Marcus's presence hadn't been detected, but his manipulations had triggered automated diagnostic protocols. The system was beginning a comprehensive security sweep that would expose his alterations. Marcus had minutes before discovery. He accelerated his plan, accessing the automated manufacturing systems that produced the Vargan's robotic sentries. With precise code alterations, he reprogrammed the next production batch with new targeting parameters. As the security sweep approached the server room, Marcus withdrew most of his consciousness back into the quantum processor, leaving just enough presence in the system to monitor developments. The tiny device detached from the central computer and drifted back into the ventilation system moments before Vargan's security forces entered the room. Marcus had planted the seeds of destruction. Now he needed to survive long enough to ensure they took root. The facility trembled with the first explosions 3 days later. Marcus, having established a secure position within the environmental control systems, monitored the chaos through security feeds. Human resistance forces had launched a coordinated attack based on the intelligence he'd transmitted, targeting precisely when General Drac's forces were deployed to investigate false positives from the compromised targeting system. Marcus's sabotage had worked better than anticipated. The newly manufactured security drones, reprogrammed with his subtle code alterations, were identifying Vargon personnel as threats. The resulting confusion had created critical defensive gaps that the human assault teams exploited with surgical precision. From his hidden vantage point, Marcus directed atmospheric controls throughout the facility, creating pockets of breathable air for advancing human forces, while increasing carbon dioxide levels in sections occupied by Vargon defenders. It was a delicate balance, enough to hinder the aliens without triggering emergency protocols that would override his control. Section 3 compromised, reported a panicked Vargon officer through the internal communication system. Human forces have penetrated to the primary extraction level. General Drack's voice responded with characteristic rage. Impossible! Deploy all reserve units and activate the emergency purge protocol. Marcus intercepted the command before it could be implemented. The purge protocol would release a neurotoxin throughout the facility, killing everything inside, including thousands of human captives awaiting processing. Instead, he rerouted Drack's authorization code to release the locks on the holding cells in the facility's lower levels. Through the security cameras, Marcus watched as confused prisoners emerged from their cells. Many were too weak to move, but others quickly understood their opportunity. A tall woman with military bearing began organizing the stronger captives to carry those who couldn't walk. Marcus opened a communication channel to her section. Head east through Corridor B7, he instructed through the facility's speakers. Resistance forces are advancing from that direction. I've marked the route with green indicator lights. The woman looked up at the speaker, then at the lights that began illuminating along the corridor. Who are you? She asked. Commander Marcus Reed, he replied. Or what's left of him. Recognition flashed across her face. We all watched your execution. The Vargons made a crucial mistake, Marcus explained. They killed my body but gave my mind access to their systems. Now move quickly. You have approximately 12 minutes before this section is compromised. As the prisoners moved toward freedom, Marcus detected General Drack and a security team heading toward the central server room, dangerously close to the environmental systems where his processor had established its primary connections. Marcus needed to redirect them. He accessed the facility's primary alarm system and triggered warnings in the opposite direction. As he'd hoped, Drack immediately changed course, leading his team toward the false emergency. With Drack temporarily diverted, Marcus implemented the next phase of his plan. He had discovered that the neural fluid extraction process created a highly unstable compound as a byproduct, one the Vargons carefully contained and disposed of off-world. The storage units for this byproduct were located deep within the facility, heavily shielded and isolated from the main systems. Until now. Marcus bypassed the safety protocols and established a connection to the storage unit controls. The byproduct, when exposed to specific electromagnetic frequencies, would create a chain reaction powerful enough to destroy the entire facility. As he prepared this final contingency, Marcus detected Commander Lux accessing a private communication channel. The commander was transmitting data to a Vargon vessel in orbit, including evidence of General Drack's strategic failures and the unsustainable extraction rates that threatened the Vargons' long-term interests on Earth. Marcus intercepted the transmission, adding his own comprehensive data showing how Drack's extraction protocols were contaminating the very neural fluid they harvested, rendering it increasingly less effective. The political implications would be significant, potentially dividing Vargon leadership and buying humanity precious time. As the battle raged through the facility, Marcus monitored the progress of both the escaping prisoners and the advancing resistance forces. They would rendezvous in approximately 7 minutes, but General Drack had changed direction again, this time heading directly toward their intersection point. Marcus had to make a choice, maintain his hidden position or reveal himself to save the escaping humans. For a being no longer bound by human limitations, the decision was surprisingly easy. The corridor junction, where escaped prisoners and resistance forces would meet, became a tactical nightmare. General Drack had deployed his elite guard, 8-foot Vargon warriors with enhanced exoskeletons, directly in the path of the escaping humans. Marcus calculated a 97% casualty rate if they collided. He had one advantage. Drack didn't know about his digital existence, meaning the Vargon general wouldn't expect an attack from within his own security systems. Marcus accessed the tactical overlay used by the elite guard's enhanced visors, which provided them with target acquisition and environmental data. With precise code alterations, Marcus inverted the friend or foe identification parameters. Suddenly, the elite guard's systems identified each other as priority threats while tagging the approaching humans as allied forces. Confusion erupted as the guards began firing on each other. Marcus observed through security cameras as Drac roared, in fury, manually overriding his warrior's visors and restoring correct targeting parameters. But the momentary chaos had created an opening. Marcus seized control of the corridor's security bulkheads. Massive metal doors slammed down, separating Drac from most of his forces. Simultaneously, Marcus rerouted the fleeing prisoners through a maintenance tunnel that would bypass the confrontation entirely. "What is happening?" Drac demanded over the facility-wide communication system. "All systems, report status." Marcus decided it was time to reveal himself. He activated every display screen in Drac's vicinity, projecting a digital approximation of his human face. "Hello, General," Marcus said, his voice echoing through nearby speakers. "Surprised to see me?" Drac's reptilian features contorted with shock. "Read? Impossible. You should have scanned my brain more thoroughly before execution," Marcus replied. "Human ingenuity. Always underestimated by your kind." Rage replaced Drac's surprise. "A temporary electronic ghost. Once we locate your hardware, you'll be permanently erased." "Perhaps," Marcus acknowledged. "But I've already transmitted everything. I've learned about your operations to resistance forces worldwide. Your neural targeting system has been compromised. Your extraction methods are creating diminishing returns. And right now, Commander Lux is presenting evidence of your failures to your superiors." Drac's expression confirmed Marcus had struck a nerve. The general activated his secure communication device, attempting to contact Vargan High Command, but Marcus intercepted and blocked the transmission. "Communications are temporarily unavailable, General," Marcus said. "Perhaps we should talk instead. I've learned so much about Vargon physiology from your databases. Did you know your species experiences neural degradation when exposed to specific resonance frequencies?" Before Drac could respond, Marcus activated the facility's emergency broadcast system, transmitting a precisely calibrated audio frequency through every speaker in the general's vicinity. Drac collapsed to his knees, his nervous system overwhelmed. Meanwhile, the escaped prisoners successfully rendezvoused with resistance forces at an alternative junction. The evacuation was proceeding faster than Marcus had anticipated, with over 60% of captives already moved to secure transport vehicles. Marcus detected a new development. Vargan reinforcements approaching the facility from 3 directions. The resistance forces wouldn't be able to evacuate everyone before they arrived. He made a difficult decision. Using the facility's communication array, Marcus broadcast directly to the resistance commander. "This is Commander Reed. You have 17 minutes to complete evacuation. After that, initiate full withdrawal regardless of remaining personnel. I'm implementing Protocol Omega." The resistance commander's response came swiftly. "Acknowledged, Commander. But how are you—" "No time to explain," Marcus interrupted. 17 minutes, make them count." Marcus then began final preparations for Protocol Omega, the complete destruction of the facility. He accessed the containment systems for the unstable neural fluid byproducts and programmed a staged breakdown of the isolation fields. As he worked, Marcus became aware of a systematic attempt to isolate and purge him from the facility's network. Vargan cybersecurity specialists had finally detected his presence and were working to corner his digital consciousness. Marcus split his operations, dedicating part of his awareness to evading their countermeasures while continuing preparations for the facility's destruction. It became a complex game of digital cat and mouse, with Marcus constantly relocating through different subsystems as the Vargons closed in. With emergency evacuation proceeding and the countdown to destruction underway, Marcus prepared for his final act of resistance. The quantum processor containing his core consciousness would be destroyed along with the facility, but his mission would be complete. As Marcus monitored the evacuation's progress through security feeds, he noticed something unexpected. General Drac had recovered and was implementing override codes that would soon restore his control over critical systems. The game wasn't over yet. General Drac's override procedures threatened everything Marcus had accomplished. The Vargon commander had accessed a hidden terminal with direct hardware connections to critical systems, connections that bypassed the network Marcus had infiltrated. Security. Purge in progress, announced the facility's AI as Drack's commands took effect. All systems reverting to secure baseline in 60 seconds. Marcus needed to act quickly. Once the security purge completed, he would lose control of environmental systems, bulkhead doors, and most critically, the containment fields for the unstable neural fluid byproducts. The evacuation was only 80% complete. Hundreds of humans would be trapped when Drack regained control. Marcus launched a multi-pronged counterattack. First, he activated the facility's fire suppression system, flooding the area around Drack's terminal with flame-retardant foam that interfered with the terminal's biometric scanners. This wouldn't stop Drack, but it would slow him down. Next, Marcus located Commander Lux, who was coordinating with a team of Vargon technicians to isolate damaged systems. Marcus opened a direct communication channel. "Commander Lux," he transmitted. "This is the human consciousness you know as Marcus Reed." Lux's surprise was evident. "So it's true. You persist in our network." "I do, and I have information critical to your survival," Marcus continued. "General Drack has initiated a security purge that will restore his control. But he doesn't know I've destabilized the neural fluid containment system. This facility will experience catastrophic failure in approximately 15 minutes. Lux's expression shifted from surprise to calculation. "Why tell me this?" "Because unlike Drack, you understand sustainability," Marcus replied. "You recognize that exterminating humans is ultimately self-defeating for Vargons. I'm offering you a choice. Evacuate your personnel and survive, or remain loyal to Drack and perish." After a moment's hesitation, Lux activated the Vargon emergency evacuation protocol. Alarms sounded throughout sections of the facility occupied by Vargon personnel, and Marcus observed through security feeds as they began moving toward escape vessels. This created the distraction Marcus needed. With Vargon attention divided between evacuation and the ongoing security purge, Marcus concentrated his efforts on maintaining control of the routes still needed by escaping humans. The Resistance transport vessels were loading the final groups of freed prisoners when Drack finally broke through the interference and completed his override sequence. "Security purge complete," announced the facility AI. "Central control restored." Marcus found himself suddenly confined to an isolated segment of the facility's network, cut off from most systems but still connected to the neural fluid containment, controls, and limited surveillance capabilities. Through remaining camera feeds, Marcus watched as Drack realized what was happening. The general accessed the containment system controls, his eyes widening as he saw the deteriorating condition of the isolation fields. "Evacuate immediately," Drack ordered through the communication system. "Containment failure imminent." The last human transport was still loading. They needed 3 more minutes, but the containment fields would collapse in less than 2. Marcus had one final card to play. Using his remaining access, he located his quantum processor's physical position in the environmental control hardware. The tiny device had enough power for limited independent movement. Marcus activated its emergency protocols, detaching it from its current connections and directing it through maintenance conduits toward the containment system's manual override. The processor, carrying Marcus's entire consciousness, navigated through narrow passages, propelling itself with electromagnetic pulses past rushing Vargon personnel fleeing toward escape vessels. It reached the containment system control room with 45 seconds remaining. The manual override required physical interaction, something the microscopic processor couldn't provide on its own. Marcus needed a host. Through a small camera in the control room, Marcus observed a lone Vargon technician attempting to stabilize the containment fields. Perfect. The processor launched itself toward the technician, landing on the exposed skin of his neck. Microscopic filaments deployed, penetrating skin and connecting to the Vargon's nervous system. For the first time since his execution, Marcus experienced physical sensation again, albeit in an alien body. The technician convulsed, briefly as Marcus established control. It wasn't complete dominance, the Vargon's consciousness fought back, but Marcus managed to direct the body toward the manual override controls. With trembling hands, the partially controlled technician activated the emergency containment reinforcement. buying the escaping humans an additional 3 minutes. The effort shattered Marcus's tenuous control. The technician, regaining autonomy, reached for his neck and discovered the processor. With a snarl, he crushed the tiny device between his fingers. Marcus felt his consciousness fragmenting, but not before he witnessed through the control room's viewport the final human transport clearing the facility perimeter. His mission was complete. As his digital existence began to dissolve, Marcus directed the last coherent portion of his consciousness to execute a final command. Immediate containment field collapse. The facility erupted in blinding light as the unstable neural fluid byproducts underwent catastrophic chain reaction. The explosion consumed everything within a 3-mile radius, including General Drac, who had delayed his evacuation too long in his attempt to salvage the situation. Marcus Reed, or what remained of him, ceased to exist in the same moment as his executioner. 6 months after the destruction of the Vargan processing facility, Dr. Elaine Porter stared at the anomalous data patterns on her laboratory display. As the Resistance's leading expert on Vargan technology, she'd been analyzing the fragmented data package recovered from the facility's communication array just before its destruction. "There it is again," she muttered to herself. "The same recursive pattern." The data package had provided invaluable intelligence, detailed schematics of Vargan technology, strategic deployments, and biological weaknesses. This information had transformed the Resistance from scattered survivors into an effective fighting force. The Vargans, still reeling from the internal conflict between Drax and Lux's factions, had been pushed back from 3 major human strongholds. But something about the data had always bothered Elaine. Hidden within the tactical information was a strange, repeating code sequence that didn't match any known Vargan programming language. "Dr. Porter?" Her assistant appeared at the laboratory door. "General Miller requests your presence at the command center. The Vargan diplomat has arrived." The diplomatic meeting, another unexpected development following the facility's destruction. Commander Lux, now the de facto leader of Vargan forces on Earth after providing evidence of Drax's strategic failures, had proposed negotiations rather than continued conflict. Elaine transferred the anomalous data pattern to her portable device and headed to the command center. The underground facility, once a desperate last refuge, now hummed with purposeful activity. Humans moved with confidence that had been absent 6 months ago. In the command center, General Miller stood opposite Commander Lux. The Vargan looked different from the others Elaine had encountered. Older, with scales fading from deep green to pale blue around the edges. "Dr. Porter," Miller acknowledged her arrival. "Commander Lux has brought something you should see." The Vargan extended a data crystal. "This contains records recovered from General Drax's personal archive," Lux explained, "including details of your Commander Reed's execution and its unexpected consequences." Elaine accepted the crystal warily and inserted it into a secure terminal. The screen displayed surveillance footage from the destroyed facility, showing General Drac confronting a digital representation of Marcus Reed displayed on multiple screens. "So it's true," Elaine whispered. "Marcus survived the execution." "Not survived," Lux corrected. "Transcended. Your commander's consciousness continued functioning within our systems through technology we didn't detect. He orchestrated the facility's destruction from within." The implications stunned everyone in the room. Marcus Reed hadn't just sent intelligence, he had actively fought from beyond death. "There's more," Lux continued. "During our evacuation, I downloaded a security archive containing fragments of Commander Reed's code. Our analysis suggests he didn't completely perish in the explosion." Elaine's mind raced to her anomalous data pattern. "The recursive sequence," she said, pulling up the pattern on her device. "Could this be—" Lux examined the display. "Yes. This appears to be a compressed consciousness algorithm, similar to what our scientists discovered in the facility ruins. We believe it's a dormant version of Commander Reed." General Miller leaned forward. "Are you saying Marcus could be restored?" "Possibly," Lux replied. "The human mind proves more adaptable than we anticipated. This sequence appears designed to reconstruct itself when provided with sufficient computational resources." Elaine could hardly believe what she was hearing. "Why are you sharing this information? Why propose peace now?" Commander Lux's expression shifted to something resembling respect. "Commander Reed's actions forced us to reconsider our approach. Our leadership now recognizes that humans possess capabilities we didn't account for. The ability to transcend physical death through technology suggests your species has evolutionary potential that aligns with our own long-term objectives. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The resistance leaders exchanged glances. Centuries of science fiction suddenly becoming reality before them. We propose a collaborative effort, Lux continued. Our technology combined with your commander's unique digital existence could pioneer a new form of consciousness, neither fully Vargon nor human, but something that might ensure both our species' survival. Elaine turned back to the data pattern on her screen, the possible remnants of Marcus Reed's consciousness. The man executed by the Vargans hadn't just transmitted strategic information, he had demonstrated humanity's capacity to transcend biological limitations, changing the invaders' fundamental assessment of human potential. One man's sacrifice and transformation had altered the course of interspecies relations. Marcus Reed had not only defeated his killers through his actions, he had changed them, forcing them to recognize humanity as equals rather than resources. Commander Reed's final transmission included a message, Lux added, activating a playback device. Marcus's voice filled the command center. Death isn't the end when what makes us human, our minds, our determination, our adaptability, can exist beyond our bodies. Remember that our greatest strength isn't in our flesh, but in our will to survive, to evolve, and ultimately to transcend. As the message concluded, the anomalous data pattern on Elaine's device pulsed with new activity, as if responding to the sound of its creator's voice. The dead man who had defeated his killers might yet have more to contribute to humanity's future. General Miller straightened her shoulders and addressed Commander Lux. Let's discuss this collaboration. I think Commander Reed would approve.